Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Last Thursday morning, 148 Kenyan University students were slaughtered. The Al-Shabbab terrorists from neighboring Somalia took their time executing and beheading Christians and innocents that could not or would not recite from the Koran. It took troops from Kenya's capital, Nairobi, to finally arrive in Garissa just before 2 p.m., 7 hours after the massacre began.
What is adequate? About 150 people face down on the ground, many of them shot in the head execution style, and parents and students saying we were waiting for several hours.
The response was adequate, and because of the military garrison that was actually quite close to the university, one cannot actually say that the response was slow.
While it took the Kenyan military a neglectful 7 hours to finally arrive at the massacre in Garissa, the United States reflects that same slothful response our taxpayer dollars burn for.
Patty showed them a small revolver she was carefully holding in the palm of her hand. A camera crew was there to capture what unfolded next.
I said, it's not even loaded. And I dropped it on the floor.
You got a gun?
Well, they punched me in the face. Look at my black and blue marks. Look at what they did to me.
No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
Katrina was the dry run for what we have come to expect from a federal response. Katrina was surreptitiously politicized by the Bush administration, while hundreds of volunteer firefighters and National Guard were ordered to wait for days until finally being authorized to respond to the massive devastation. During the ordeal, then Vice President Cheney ordered a Mississippi electricity cooperative to restore power to a gas pipeline rather than restoring power to 2 rural hospitals. And after the fact, we learned that the White House was fully aware that the levees had broken and flooding was underway as it happened, contrary to what they told the public.
It is chaos along the Jersey Shore. The superstorm battering the barrier islands. In the crosshairs, Atlantic City.
Look, talk about a delayed reaction. It's kind of like Force 10 from Navarone, where they detonate the dam that doesn't collapse right away. It takes a few minutes. Shandy's worse than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was mainly hype, and they still did overhype it as basically the storm of all time. Satan incarnate ravaging the East Coast.
The cops were geared up in their paramilitary gear. They just didn't want to deal with anybody. I could kind of understand that, but you could tell some of these guys were really getting off on it.
The Pentagon's done breakdowns in different countries watching this. Over 90% will start killing for food and water, and within 15 days. 90+%, depending on which study, it's right over 90, become cannibals. Within 15 days, the 9 out of 10 plus people will start eating others. Now, I mean, it's not going to get to that point, obviously, but notice this is happening in areas where you have people that are disarmed in these big mega cities that are death traps during disasters. I mean, if there was ever a big earthquake in LA or New York, a really big one, I mean, the system isn't going to be able to help you, and they aren't going to. They're going to come and take your guns.
According to the FBI statistics regarding percent distribution of incidents where police came to the victim by police response time and type of crime, when it comes to violent crime, the highest percentage of response time fell under 11 minutes to an hour. And for property crimes where you would absolutely need to defend yourself from a home invasion, 45% of response time fell under 11 minutes to an hour.
If the feds tried to do that, disarm this country, I said you would see an uprising and maybe a version of the Second American Revolution because of that. Just read the Declaration of Independence. It's right in there. So the feds coming in and going into homes, forcing their way into homes and removing firearms. I mean, the thought is preposterous.
Even Interpol Secretary General Ronald Noble suggested an answer to the bloodshed in Kenya could be in arming civilians. It only took 9 attackers to wipe out 148 Kenyans at Garissa University. just 4 to kill 67 Kenyans in last year's Westgate Mall shooting, and only a few terrorists to kill 213 and injure 4,000 in the 1998 Nairobi embassy bombings. Had the Kenyan students been armed, the horror would have been largely avoided. With the passing of Kenyan President Kenyatta's controversial security bill, basically making free speech and freedom of the press a crime, Kenya is spiraling into the throes of a full-blown police state, a petri dish for the power elite's Trojan horse psyop waged on citizens worldwide. Somali terror group Shabbab has threatened Kenyan cities will run red with blood. This will be a long, gruesome war of which you, the Kenyan public, are its first casualties. Shabbab also warned no amount of precaution or safety measures will be able to guarantee your safety, thwart another attack, or prevent another bloodbath. Jon Bowne for Infowars.com.
The globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding and making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Members can share their memberships with up to 11 people. By subscribing, you will literally be buying war bonds in the info war to expand our operation in the face of the tyrants. Join us at PrisonPlanet.tv.